Hello. Day 14, real quick before I go to sleep. Um, I know when I'm going. I actually have a plan. They've sent me a bunch of information about uh, when I'm going to Edmonton and for how long it's going to be. So, uh, evening of Sunday, I'm going to be heading out after church. My brother's going to be driving me to the airport, and then I'm flying over. They're going to have an Airbnb for me to stay in for 2 days, and then the final day I need to sleep, I'll be in a hotel. And yeah, they're paying for the hotel, the flight, the rental car, and I'm going to have 3 days of learning, which is really, it's kind of scary because I feel like I'd probably need more. I'm just, you know, kind of crossing my fingers hoping that I'll be able to do the job really well after I get out. But yeah, uh, the the software that I'm going to be using is quite convoluted and very old. I'm going to have a lot of very small things that I'm going to have to remember. And after I do this, after I go to Edmonton and I come back, I'm going to have to do an exam. And if I fail the exam, then it'll be 10 days, at least 10 days before I can do it again. But the thing is that the place isn't going to be open in 10 days. It's only open 2 days a week. So it's really 2 weeks entire, like 14 days that I'm not able to take the exam again if I fail. And that's like, and if I pass, then I can immediately start working. So if I fail, that's 2 weeks of revenue that I'm losing right there. So that's pretty scary. However, they said that it'll be easier for me to do the exam after I do the training. So let's hope that plays a part in it. Plus, they have a system of practice exams that I can do in the meantime. And I've already read through all of the books. It's just that, like, it's a lot of very fringe information in these exams that I have to, that I don't quite remember. And then after I, like, get the question wrong, I'm looking into the book. So it's a very slow process of learning here. And the exam is going to have 150 questions over the span of 3 hours. So yeah, that's something. That's 50 questions per hour. So that's 50, 50 questions in 60 minutes. That's like a little bit over a minute per question. So, and there's going to be some mathematical questions in there. It's all multiple choice. So, yeah. We'll see how I do. In other news, in preparation for this, I have eaten all my perishable foods. I didn't really know how long I was going to be gone for, so I just haven't gone grocery shopping in the past few weeks. Uh, and I think it's really good because uh, I just had a lot of stuff in my freezer. Will still have a lot of stuff in my freezer that people have given to me, and it's just sat there for a very long time that I just haven't used. And so it's good to actually, go through some of the freezer stuff and be like, oh, so that's there, and that's there, and that's there. Because before it was like just completely stuffed, and I just didn't know. I didn't even know how to start tackling it. And so I've been very slowly going through food item after food item. And honestly, I just want to get through it all and then like restock afterwards and actually know what's in the freezer and fridge for once. Yeah. I've been cooking a lot, which is really, really good. Before I would, go out all the time. I'd, uh, yeah, I'd buy foods that were very easily consumed, like, energy bars and protein shakes and stuff like that. But no, I guess I'm 21. It's about time I started growing up in some ways. I'm actually like making meals that are like genuinely healthy. I used to beat myself up about it a lot, and that wasn't necessarily the healthiest mindset. At the same time, I was sort of dealing with a lot. Yeah, I was working and I had school, and yeah, work traffic control is pretty exhausting. This job's probably going to be pretty exhausting when I'm like in the full swing of things. Like when I'm starting and when I'm ramping up the amount of work I'm doing, it's probably going to be pretty exhausting for about half a year until I finally get into the swing of things and am able to do it quickly and, efficiently. So, yeah, I guess that's just how it is with any job. But oh my goodness, traffic control. At first it was torture because, you're standing for long, long, long hours. You have to stand the entire time. It feels like, how it feels like when you're in a theme park for an entire day, and how your feet ache afterwards. Well, just imagine that every day of the week, just constantly like that. And not only that, traffic control sort of swings between two extremes of either you have absolutely nothing that you're doing. You are standing at a road closed sign because they hired you to do that because they're legally obligated to have you there, and they don't really care that you're there, but they're like, you know what, since we have this guy, there's going to be a truck that's going to turn into this area every 2 hours. And well, his job is going to be moving the road closed sign out of the way for the truck and then moving it back. Now you're standing there for 9 hours straight. Just, you're not even completely sure that it's going to be 9 hours. You don't really know what they're doing entirely. You just sort of recognize after a while, like how close they are to being finished, but even then, you're not completely sure how long you're going to be there every day. Now imagine doing that and you're busing there and back, and you're not completely sure where you're going to be as well. So that's one extreme. You're just completely bored out of your mind, and just it's some sort of torture experience on the left side of just forcing you to stand for many, many hours straight. And then not in the complete opposite end of the spectrum. Well, you're still doing things for very long hours sometimes. I mean, then there's the really nice jobs where it's short and you get paid for 6 hours. You just go in there, you stop a car, they move like a wire across the street, they plug it in, and they're like, all right, that's your pay. That's all you need to do today. That's it. You're signed off. You can go back home. Those were nice days. That was pretty nice. But on the opposite side of the spectrum, you've got the long hour days where you are needed constantly, and you don't have enough people to do the job, and you're constantly having to look back and forth for all the cars that are coming in different directions and stopping them here and letting them go there and letting them go there and then stopping those sides and then letting these guys go. Constant, absolutely non-stop action, and you are dead by the end of the day. That, you're doing that for 12 hours straight, and you go back home and you're like, am I going to be cooking? No, I'm not going to be cooking today. I'm going to grab McDonald's, and then I will go head home, and I will sleep. Then I will wake up the next day and go to work again. Yeah. So on one side of the spectrum, I can definitely see why I didn't. And even, even the other side where you're standing in one spot for long hours doing practically nothing, that's still exhausting because you still have to sort of pay attention. You're like looking back and forth to see when that truck will come, if it comes within the hour. And so your brain has to be slightly active, which just prolongs the amount of time it takes. Like, your perception of time in traffic control is so warped because, you don't really know how long you're supposed to be there for, and makes every hour feel 5 times as long. You look at the watch and you're like, oh my goodness, it's only been 2 minutes since the last time I looked at the watch. Yeah. Yeah, you shouldn't look at your watch when you're doing traffic control. That definitely makes it worse. Um, yeah. But at least in this job, I will actually have to be talking with someone. That was always the best thing in traffic control. When you're talking with someone, the day can go by like that. When it's like the boring, you're standing in one place jobs, you're talking with someone, and you're it's people are interesting. The conversations can go in whatever direction, and who knows how it will go. But then, of course, the last 2 hours, if it's like a 10-hour or 12-hour day, are always the longest. You've run out of things to talk about. You're kind of tired and you're just waiting for the day to finish. Well, in this job, uh, I'll it'll be a quick turnaround. I'll be spending a maximum of like 2 hours at each house, and I'll be talking to the homeowners about different things about their house, and I'll be doing different things throughout. So I'll be measuring the walls, I'll be like pulling air through the house in order to find leaks and stuff. As I'm going to be an energy advisor, so that means that I'll be uh, basically telling homeowners about how they can renovate their house in order to save money at the end of every year with their energy bills. It's easy as that. And the government reimburses the renovation, the amount of money that they spend renovating their place. I mean, like to a certain extent. There's like rules and stuff like that. Uh, but yeah, it's free money for them effectively. Yeah. And so I'm helping them. So they like me probably. And I'll be uh, seeing different interesting colorful characters and seeing different houses all the time and measuring and looking at different things all the time. uh it'll probably get monotonous after a while, but hey, there's different people out there, and at least that's something. uh the the boss was saying that I'll probably be doing when I'm in the full swing of things, I'll probably be doing 4 jobs per day. So 2 hours each. So that is 8 hours of work, which is pretty good. But then the thing is that each job I have to do work at home, uh, writing stuff and inputting it into this software called Hot 2000. And I can imagine that the hours, and I'm not really getting paid for that. I'm more getting paid for being at those houses and showing up to those jobs. At the same time, I have to do the Hot 2000 thing, and that's almost the most. I mean, both parts are very important, but uh, the Hot 2000 thing is like modeling how the upgrades are going to change the house and how much it's going to be important to do one thing or another. So it is pretty important to do the software and all those calculations and write it all down and figure out the user interface. But at first, it's going to take a very long time for me to input these things into the program. Uh, and probably if I'm really good, it'll take me 30 minutes per house, which means that I won't be working for 8 hours a day if I do 4 houses a day. I'm working for 10 hours a day. At least the pay's really good. Like, the pay's really good. Yeah. But still, 10 hours a day is pretty difficult. Have I told you guys the reason why I want to do this job? Looks like this isn't going to be really quick, is it? It's already been 16 minutes. All right. That's fine. I'm in a rambly mood today, apparently. Uh, the reason why I want to do this job, the reason why I'm doing this rather than acting, why I'm doing this, is because is partially for that good pay, but that's not really necessarily for specifically and only me. Uh, that's so that I'm able to support a family in the future. Uh, Whoever I marry in the future is, I want to bless them and my future kids as well. And I want to save right now for that time. And I want to give them the best life that I can in the meantime. Because I know that this job's not necessarily going to last forever. I know that I'm called to ministry, which isn't necessarily the most lucrative thing. And prophetically speaking, I've been hearing different words of people saying that I will be going into full-time ministry. So 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, I'll be ministering to people. And so that'll be my full-time position. And maybe I'll own a business or something like that, and that's how I'll support myself in the meantime. But I can't necessarily look that far ahead in the future. What I can do in the meantime, what I can do right now, is just basically build up a bank account for the tough times, and hold it there for when I am doing the full-time ministry, when I have a family that I need to take care of and stuff like that. Yeah, so that I have a buffer. And hopefully that buffer is going to last me for a long time. Yeah, so that's why I'm going for the difficult, well-paying job right now, rather than the fun thing right now. Because I went to acting college. There's been, prophetically speaking, voices that have been saying that I will, I can do it if I want to. I can, if I really, really want to go into acting, I can. And that God will bless it. But that, it's not necessarily the best thing. That God has more for me than just being an actor. And that it'll be useful. The time I spent in acting college will be useful. It's just not necessarily going to go as I expected. And there was another more prophetically speaking. Now, when I say that there's voices, I mean that there are different people that have been coming and prophesying over me that didn't know about or hear about the other people that have prophesied over me. And so uh, it says that when there are two or three witnesses in the Bible, when there's two or three witnesses uh, that that's like what's required before you know that something's real. And so, uh, and in my books, it seems like it's less valid if one person knows that that a different person has already prophesied something over me. But the fact that multiple different people, not only two or three, but more like three or four or five different people have prophesied the same thing over me, and none of them know each other, and I know that for a fact. Or not necessarily that they don't know each other, but at the very least, they haven't been communicating with each other about what they've said over me. That the fact that that's happening is speaks very highly as to the validity of these prophetic voices. And so back on topic now. What these prophetic voices have been saying, had been saying for a while, was that I would be shifted, and this was while I was in acting college, that a wave would come, and that I think I'm going somewhere, but that I'll be shifted, and that I'll be going into something that's greater than anything I could ever imagine or think about. Yeah. Yeah, it's really difficult hearing a word like that, as exciting as it might be in the moment, because if I can't imagine it, then, like, that doesn't even compute. Like, how do I even try if I know that I can't? I mean, I can try, but I know that it won't work because I can't imagine it. It's literally impossible for me to imagine it. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, at the same time, God is like incomprehensible. He is uncontainable, and that he has more planned for us than anything we could ever dream about. And I suppose, of course, that's a very, very good thing. But it's very difficult. It's not the easiest thing when you just want to know what's going to happen. Yeah. So that's some of my journey, some of what's been happening in my life. Yeah. So the plan, uh, from Jordan Peterson, uh, not even, was it Jordan Peterson? I don't even, yeah, it's Jordan Peterson. He does the self-authoring thing. And he says that it's a very, very important for you to set a goal. It doesn't necessarily matter that that is the goal that you will achieve, or that that's uh, what you'll even want to achieve in the future. But at the very least, it's better than not having a goal at all. You need to set a goal that is the highest. The way he says it, you need to wish upon the highest star that you can look upon, and that will be your guiding light effectively. And yeah, and so there it is very important, even though I don't necessarily, I won't even be able to imagine what God has for me in the future. It's literally impossible for me to do. At the very least, I can try, and that I can aim for something, and that in my movement towards that thing, that the path will be more clarified, and that God can direct me towards something that is more right, that is more true, that is more of his plan toward for my life in my motion. If I'm just static and not and standing still, if I'm just like trying to see into the future without moving in one path, then even if I'm moving in the wrong path, at least I'm moving in it's like, okay, let's say that the correct direction is due north. I might be 30 degrees off to the left, but at least I'm moving in the general direction. I have, even if I'm taking 5 steps in that direction, I'm still taking some direction in the actual direction I need to go. And God can simply start tuning the direction that I start going. And I might overcompensate. I might start going 30 degrees like that way instead of that way. But at least, now I am, moving back onto the correct true north path. I'm moving back onto that, and that is better than moving further off towards, let's say, the east. Moving off towards the east, at least I'm moving back westward towards the true direction that I need to go, even if I overcompensate. And so, of course, lots of things are a tightrope balance when dealing with God. For instance, uh, is it completely free will, or is it completely um, predestined? And I tend to believe that it's some combination of both, some incomprehensibly tight line of both, a tightrope effectively, where um, it's fully our free will to sin, but at the same time it's completely and fully predestined from the beginning of creation who would uh what sin I would do, but it was completely my free will at the same time, just inattention. And then walking along the path of trying to act according to that is like seemingly impossible. I don't really know how to do it, and that's where you need God's guidance. It's like, you know, is it uh, by grace you are saved? Is it by faith you are saved? Yes, it's fully by faith you are saved. Well, but you need works as well, because without works, your faith is dead. So it is your works. But no, it's fully your faith. Well, but you need grace for the works. But if you have too much grace, then that grace is dead. If you are using that grace in order to justify your actions, you're saying that uh, by me sinning, that grace will abound all the more, and that grace is such a higher good that um, that it justifies my sin. Well, now my grace is dead. I've killed it. I it's an interesting sort of triangle there. It's by faith that we're saved, fully by faith. But our faith is dead without works. It's proven by our works. But at the same time, if we go fully by works, then we die because we're doing it of our own strength. But if we go too far into grace, then we die because it's because now we are completely justifying every action that we ourselves are doing, and we're living of the world again. And so, the only way to do it is to be carried by God, to do things out of love for Him, to somehow be walking on the true and narrow path, the tightrope of, you know, fully grace, fully faith, fully works, but all for his glory. It's all for him, it's all for love. Without love, that's all dead. Yeah, I can have faith to move mountains, but then it's all for nothing if it isn't for love. We love him because he first loved us, and it's all for him. Yeah, that's a bit of a ramble. I don't really know what proverb to put below. I've said a lot of scriptures, I've paraphrased a lot of scriptures in this. Uh, yeah, proverb down below, whichever one I choose. Bye bye.